Hello, my name is Sam Povey. I'm an educator at the WSET School London, and today we will be looking at traditional method sparkling wine. To start off, let's just do a little bit of a recap of the traditional method. Traditional method sparkling wine starts its life as a still, dry base wine, which is added to a bottle along with a combination of sugar and yeast. That bottle is sealed and the yeast ferments the sugar, creating a secondary fermentation which produces the CO2 that results in a sparkling wine. That secondary fermentation also produces additional alcohol, raising the ABV of the wine. That dead yeast is then left in contact with the wine, imparting bready, biscuity, toasty aromas into the sparkling wine. The longer that the wine is left on that yeast, the more pronounced these flavors will become. When the winemaker is satisfied with the balance of primary and autolytic flavors, they will remove the yeast through a process of riddling and disgorgement, giving them an opportunity to alter the sweetness level and balance the acidity through the addition of a small amount of sugar that is known as dosage. The wine is then sealed with a cork, ready for further maturation and eventual sale. Champagne is the first region we'll look at. Champagne is in the northeast corner of France and has a cool continental climate. This results in a short growing season with a relatively low average temperature. As a result, the grapes tend to be harvested with a fairly low level of sugar, which is what we need when we're making traditional method sparkling wine, as that secondary fermentation is going to raise the alcohol even further than with a wine made from a single fermentation. The cool continental climate of Champagne is also subject to various instances of inclement weather which can cause problems for grape growers. Winter freeze, spring frost, and cloud and rain during the growing season can all create problems for grape growers, resulting in significant vintage variation. For example, frost in the spring can significantly reduce yields, while cloudy weather during the ripening season can slow that ripening down, resulting in unacceptably high levels of acidity. As a result, to produce consistency in terms of style, quality, and quantity, it is common to blend wines made from different vintages. Wine kept back as a still wine and matured in the winery is known as reserve wine, and it's often blended with the wine made in the current vintage to produce non-vintage blends. This gives winemakers lots of control over the house style of wine they produce and also allows them to deal with any vintage variation that they might encounter. There are many different kinds of soils in Champagne, but chalk is one of the most important. It provides the perfect balance between drainage and water retention, allowing grapes to access water in those drier years. There are three main grape varieties that are used in the production of traditional method sparkling wine in Champagne. Most wine is made as a blend of these grapes, although there are many wines made from a single variety. Chardonnay produces light-bodied wines with high levels of acidity, citrus fruit, and is renowned for its ability to age. Pinot Noir tends to give a Champagne a little bit more body and texture, and Meunier contributes lots of fruit intensity, although it's believed to produce wines that are somewhat less ageable. One of the big advantages of Meunier is that it buds late, which helps it avoid the worst of the spring frosts. There are several sub-regions throughout Champagne, each being known for producing particular grape varieties. Most wines are blends of grapes coming from several of these different sub-regions. The first is the Montagne de Reims. This is particularly well known for growing Pinot Noir. Next door is the Vallée de la Marne. This is a quite cold, frost-prone valley and is therefore best suited to Meunier, which buds late and therefore avoids the worst of that frost. The Côte de Blanc is best known for growing Chardonnay. It has east or southeast facing slopes, and the name derives from the concentration of chalk soil, which gives the vineyards a slightly white appearance. The Côte de Sézanne is also known for having a fair amount of chalk, if not quite as much as the Côte de Blanc, and is also best known for its Chardonnays. Finally, the Côte de Bar, which is located significantly further south than the other regions, is best known for Pinot Noirs, and grapes grown in this region are an essential component of many blended styles. The vineyards of Champagne are also further classified. This is a fairly simple system compared to what you might find in Burgundy, where villages are ranked either as Premier or Grand Cru. There are no further rules or restrictions on grape growing in these regions, and most wines are blended across different villages. So as a result, on a bottle, you're much more likely to simply see the term Premier Cru or Grand Cru rather than any individual village. All champagne must be made using the traditional method. Non-vintage champagnes need to be aged for a minimum of 12 months on the lees and a minimum of 15 months overall. Vintage champagne, which is made from the grapes harvested in a single year, has to be aged for a minimum of 12 months on the lees, like non-vintage champagnes, but a minimum of 36 months overall. Many producers significantly exceed these minimums. Most regions in France make their own sparkling wines, often using the traditional method. The term crémant was introduced to protect Champagne's prestige while helping other regions market their own wines. Crémant must be made using the traditional method with a minimum of 9 months of lees aging, and each region tends to use its own unique grape varieties. The region of Alsace makes its Crémant from a blend of Pinot Blanc, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, and Riesling. Grape growers are free to choose which grape varieties they use. However, the most aromatic grapes like Muscat and Gewürztraminer are prohibited because they provide far too concentrated flavors for the traditional method. Crémant de Bourgogne is made unsurprisingly from a blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Once again, all Crémant must be made using the traditional method. Finally, the Loire Valley, which is the largest producer of sparkling wine in France apart from Champagne. It has several different styles of sparkling wine, but all again use the traditional method. Crémant de Loire is a particularly popular category. Saumur uses Chardonnay, Chenin, and also sometimes a little bit of Cabernet Franc. And Vouvray must make its sparkling wines entirely from Chenin Blanc. Chenin Blanc is a particularly well-suited grape variety for sparkling wines because it has naturally high acidity, and when aged on the lees, it develops unique smoky and toasty characteristics that set it apart from the more bready, biscuity aromas you get when you age grapes like Chardonnay on the lees. The next sparkling wine we look at is Cava. Cava as a term can be applied to any traditional method sparkling wine made in Spain, although in practice almost all of the wines are produced in the province of Catalonia. All Cava must be made using the traditional method and has to spend a minimum of 9 months on lees, although some producers significantly exceed this minimum. Catalonia is significantly warmer and sunnier than regions like Champagne, but it's a large region, which means it has quite a varied climate. For example, its hilly uplands go up to an altitude of 800 meters, and this is perfect because it provides quite a large diurnal range, which helps grapes retain that high level of acidity that we need for traditional method sparkling wine. The majority of grapes, however, are harvested from a large, fairly warm coastal plain. In order to retain the acidity that is so essential for this style of wine, it's common for grape growers to pick grapes for sparkling wine at the very beginning of the harvest in order to retain that acidity and keep the level of alcohol relatively low. We're now going to cover some standard labeling terms that you'll see on many styles of sparkling wine, regardless of the country that you are looking at. The first is non-vintage. This is a standard style for the reasons that we discussed earlier. Non-vintage means that the wine is made from grapes harvested in different years. Vintage wines are usually made from grapes harvested in a single year. In the case of Champagne, it must be the case that 100% of the grapes were harvested in that year, and the year will be displayed on the bottle. Prestige cuvées are sold widely. These are top quality wines that retail at super premium prices. Some are non-vintage, some are vintage, but in any case they will be made with a great degree of care and attention, often using the very best grapes available to the winemaker and aged both on the lees and in the bottle for an extended period of time. Blanc de Blanc styles are made entirely from white grapes. In the case of Champagne, this will mean that it is made entirely from Chardonnay. Blanc de Noir means that the wine is made entirely from black grapes. In the case of Champagne, this will mean it's made entirely from Pinot Noir and/or Meunier. Rosé styles are made by extracting colour from the skins at the pressing stage or by blending in very small amounts of red wine towards the end of production. The next three terms refer to the overall sweetness level of the wines themselves. Brut nature means that no sugar has been added at the dosage stage and that the wine only has a maximum of 3 grams of sugar per litre. Brut is by far the most common term for sweetness, and this allows up to a total of 12 grams per litre of residual sugar. Brut wines will usually taste completely dry. The final category that we look at is demi-sec. Demi-sec wines will have between 32 and 50 grams of residual sugar per litre and will have a noticeable sweetness. We will now look at an exam-style question. The question reads, identify and describe the climate of Champagne for a total of 3 marks. The 2 command verbs here are identify and describe. You get 1 mark for correctly identifying the climate and 2 marks for describing what that identification means. The answer to this question will look something like this. The climate of Champagne is cool and continental for 1 mark. A cool climate is a climate with an average growing season temperature of 16.5 degrees or below. And a continental climate is one with short, hot summers and a rapid temperature drop in the autumn. Thanks very much for watching and good luck with your studies.